Looking at our world from a theological perspective. This is the Theology Central Podcast, making theology central.
Good Sunday evening to everyone. It is Sunday, June the 6th, 2021. It is currently 5:47 p.m. Central Time. Yes, and as soon as I start talking, I don't know if you could hear it there, my voice was like, time out, I'm done. You've been talking all day. You taught for an hour in Sunday school. You preached an hour about 55 minutes for Sunday morning. You've now been out here. You've done over 2 hours of broadcast so far. So that's 4 hours of teaching. And now you're turning on the microphone to talk again. And my voice is saying, nope, that's it. I'm done. I'm going home. But I'm going to make my voice obey me. Now, I apologize, but I am going to have to take a drink of water. All right, there you go. It is amazing, how your voice can just decide it's done. It's just going to give up. There's been times I've been out here, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, whatever the case may be, just going one broadcast to another, and then all of a sudden that's it. The voice just gives up. But yeah, your preaching can take a lot from your voice. It really can. And I know what some people are going to say. Well, the reason it takes so much out of your voice is because all you do when you preach is yell. Maybe compared to some preachers, I yell. I think compared to other preachers, I don't even enter into the discussion of yelling, Pastor. I think it just depends on your perspective and what you're used to. I tend to think that I'm very calm, cool, collective, monotone, boring, and people just sleep when they listen to me because I'm so calming in my, okay, maybe not. All right, maybe I do yell a little bit, but we're not here to talk about that, are we? No, we're not. We're here to have a Bible study exercise. Now, remember how the Bible study exercises are supposed to work first and foremost. The Bible study exercises are primarily designed for the members of Victory Baptist Church, where I do part of the teaching, I hand the rest over to them, and then they are to take that, do their own work, and they're looking things up, and then they communicate with me through the chat channel for the members of the church, and then they add their thoughts, and then I go there, and then by doing that, we are encouraging and exhorting one another, which is kind of what the church is supposed to be doing. When that happens that way, it's so good. When I am met with deafening silence and nobody does that, then that's discouraging. And it's not encouraging and exhorting. It's discouraging and depressing. Maybe not for them, but for me. So that's primarily for the church. However, obviously it's for everyone else who listens, and everyone else who listens who does participate, and they send me their notes and their work. I do greatly appreciate it because that does make up for any discouragement that adds encouragement. So hopefully, though, the Bible study exercises are beneficial. Now, remember how the Bible study exercises work. I do part of the work. I do some of the teaching, but even in that teaching, I try to teach in many cases like I don't necessarily have an answer, but I'm trying to what about this and what about that? Sometimes I provide an outline. Sometimes it can go any different direction. But I hope that they're always beneficial. Hopefully they are. If you want to find all of the Bible study exercises, you can go to theologycentral.net. That's the pod page. Go to episodes, look for Bible study exercises, and all of them are right there for you to use and to make you happy, right? Because I know you cannot wait to listen to all of them. All right, so there you go. Now, what are we going to do this evening? Well, what I wanted to do, because it is Sunday evening, this is kind of supposed to be kind of like, for kind of this is designed specifically for the people of the church. I wanted to do a little bit of work in 2 Peter chapter 3. That's what I want. I have a Bible study guide here that kind of brings up some things in this section, and I wanted to provide an outline, but I decided to set that aside, and I want to talk about an important issue. Now, this issue, let's just be honest. Every verse, every scripture, every idea is a controversy because Christians can't agree on anything. So it doesn't matter what I'm saying. There's going to be some controversy. What we're going to talk about tonight, I think, will be somewhat controversial because so much of your understanding of the concept greatly depends on your view of eschatology. How you view the end times will greatly impact how you view this concept. But no matter how I want you to set aside your eschatology here for a second. I want you to set aside your end times perspective for a second, and let's just consider this word and what we should do with it. And the word that I want you to consider this evening is the word delusion. The word delusion. All right. Now, if we were to look up the word delusion and look for a dictionary definition of delusion, we could find something like this. Delusion is a belief or impression that is firmly maintained despite being contradicted by what is generally accepted as reality or rational argument, typically a symptom of mental disorder. All right? So a delusion is where you have a belief, you have an impression that you firmly maintain it. You maintain it, even though it's contradicted by reality, it's even contradicted by rational argument. And they say it's typically a symptom of a mental disorder. You believe something. You're like, this is the way it is. You hold it to be true. And someone comes along and says, wait a minute. This is generally accepted reality. Look at the reality. Hey, look at rational argument. Look at the facts. Look at the truth. Look at the facts. Nope, I'm still going to maintain that this is the way it is. This is reality. I'm like, well, your reality does not in any way, shape, or form correspond with what is maintained as being generally accepted reality. It does not correspond to any rational argument that maybe you have a mental disorder. Well, that mental disorder would be delusion. Let's use a different phrase. Strong delusion. Strong delusion. Now, I want us to look at this from a theological perspective because the Bible seems to indicate, from a prophetic perspective, that a time of strong delusion is going to come. Now, we could ask, when will that arrive? Now, that gets into eschatology and how you understand the timing, but it's coming. It's coming, one way or the other. Some may argue that it's already here. Now, if strong delusion is coming, right? I'm just going to ask some questions. Remember, Bible study exercise. If strong delusion is coming, one, is there anything you can do to prevent yourself from not experiencing that strong delusion? If it's coming, who's going to bring it to pass? If God's going to bring that strong delusion, what can you do to prevent? Do you have any say-so in the matter, or could you just be deluded? Or what could you do to protect yourself from strong delusion? Even if we look at strong delusion from a prophetic perspective, there's strong delusion, I think, in the world right now, where people seem to be denying reality, denying facts, and believing and holding to ideas that rational argument and generally understood reality would argue against. But you can't argue against them, because the minute you argue against them, you are hateful, you're a bigot, you're crazy, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, what happened? So there is delusion now. So here, I guess let's start with this. What could you do from a biblical perspective to protect yourself from delusion? Now, the problem is, once you're deluded, you don't know you're deluded. Like, someone who's experiencing delusion doesn't realize they're experiencing delusion, which is one of the most frightening things to me. For your brain to think something is real and is true when it's not, but there's no way to fix it because your mind is convinced that it's true. So any argument presenting against it, well, your brain tells you that the argument is wrong. It's kind of frightening. It's a scary thought and let's go with this another thing. From a biblical perspective, we already start with a problem, if you think about it. Because the human heart, not only is it desperately wicked, it is deceitful above all things. If the human heart is deceitful above all things, is there a level of self-delusion that is evident in every human being? Is there a level of delusion, self-delusion, that is present in everyone? And is Christianity from a theological standpoint, a constant battle fighting against the self-delusion that we already have? Now, I will argue the only hope against self-delusion is Scripture, right? from a theological perspective, the thing that battles against self-delusion is a correct understanding of God, because we have a correct understanding of God, then we can see the world as it is. When we see God as he truly is, we can see the world as it is. We can see ourselves as we truly are. And we can go with a lot. We've talked about that so many times. But I think this is a very important concept. So let's get the definition of delusion again, the idea of delusion again. It is a belief or impression that is firmly maintained despite being contradicted by what is generally accepted as reality or rational argument, typically as a symptom of a mental disorder. Now, I know that idea of and again, that's not from a Christian dictionary. It's just from a dictionary. I know trying to say someone has a mental disorder is considered bad and not good, but there's times you have to look at someone like, what do you not get? Your whole way of thinking is so diluted and crazy. It contradicts all reality. What is wrong with you? You don't want to say someone has a mental disorder, but at times it's almost frightening that you have to think they have one, because all rational argument just doesn't work. And facts don't work. Rational argument doesn't work. I think theologically, there is a level of self-delusion in all of us, and that is a frightening thing to consider. And I think we need to think about it. But let's go to some scripture, right? So the other night, I don't even know how I came across this. I don't even know. But I came across something that says 15 Bible verses about strong delusion. And I was like, whoa, okay, that sounds interesting. Now, some of the verses I was like, what? I don't get that. But we all know where they started. You know where they started. The phrase strong delusion, you know exactly where that comes from, right? Right? If you're listening to me live, you can tell me without even looking it up. You all know where it comes from, right? Okay. I'm saying that like there's people in the church, right? Hey, people in the church. And then everybody would look at me like, no, we don't know. And then I would go like, oh, okay. Comes from obviously 2 Thessalonians, all right? 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, all right? 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. I'm trying to think about how many verses, how far back we want to go with this, but we'll just start in verse 11, all right? 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 11. And for this cause, now this is frightening, and for this cause, God himself, and himself, I'm adding that for emphasis, it's not in the text. For this cause, God shall send them strong delusion that they should believe a lie, that they all might be damned who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. Now, this is a warning. This is a threat that God is going to send a strong delusion so that, that they all might be damned. He's going to send a strong delusion that they might be damned. Now, I know this raises 9 million theological questions, and I know this leads to everyone arguing and debating. I just want to start with this idea of strong delusion. Strong delusion. So let's do this. If you have it available, let's open up the Blue Letter Bible app. Blue Letter Bible app. All right, Blue Letter Bible app. I'm in Proverbs. Let's go to 2 Thessalonians. Let's go to chapter 2. Let's go to verse 11. Let's bring up the interlinear. And let's look up the phrase delusion. All right, delusion. It means this. All right, here we go.
Strong's G 4106, plane.
Plane is the Greek word that is translated delusion. It's used 10 times in Scripture. It's used 7 times. It's translated error. To deceive 1 time, deceit 1 time, and delusion 1 time. Its outline of biblical usage is a wandering, a straying about, one led astray from the right way, roams hither and thither, mental straying, error, wrong opinion relative to morals or religion, error which shows itself in action, a wrong mode of acting, error which leads into error, deceit, or fraud. So basically, we have in this text the idea that God, at whatever point in time we're referring to here, whatever period of time we're referring to. Now, this gets into a whole discussion about eschatology. So when is this talking about? When is God going to do this? He's going to send Again, 2 Thessalonians 2:11. For this cause, now what cause? You can establish what cause brings this about, all right? Again, I'm trying to give you some of the work to do. For this cause, God shall send them strong delusion that they should believe a lie. God is going to send to them an error, a fraud, a wandering way of thinking so that they're going to end up being damned. Now, why would God do this? Now, so here's what I want you to do. And for this cause. And for this cause. First thing I want you to figure out, what cause? What cause? What brings this about? God shall send them. Number two, who is them? So what is the cause that leads God to doing this? Who is the them that he's going to do this to? And he's going to bring a strong delusion that they should believe a lie, that they all might be damned who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. So I want you to figure out what is the cause and who is the them. All right? That's very, very important, very important. Okay? You just that doesn't even need your eschatology. Your eschatology doesn't even have to come into play there. You just got to figure this out, and you may have to go back and look at it. If we look at some places where this word is used, we found this, all right? Matthew 27:64. Command, therefore, that the sepulchre be made sure until the third day, lest his disciples come by night and steal away and say unto the people, he is risen from the dead. So the last error shall be worse than the first. So, hey, make sure the tomb is guarded, because these people will come along, tell everyone that he's been raised from the dead, and this is going to cause an error, a delusion, and them thinking something that's not true. Romans 1:27. Now listen carefully here. And likewise, also the men, Romans 1:27, listen carefully. And likewise, also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust one towards another, men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error, which was meat. That word error is the word for delusion. By doing this, they're going to receive in themselves the recompense of this delusion, of this error, of this wrong way of thinking. And you can figure out what is the delusion and error in Romans 1:27. I think it's pretty obvious, but you're not allowed to say that anymore, but I think it's pretty clear. Ephesians 4:14. That we henceforth be no more children tossed to and fro, carried about with every wind of doctrine, by the sleight of men and cunning craftiness, whereby they lie in wait to deceive. Now, I want you, that word deceive right there is delusion. There are those who will try to bring about a delusion, try to deceive you, bring about a wrong way of thinking. So deceive your mind that you think the wrong way. Now, Ephesians 4:14, let's look at context. This is very important. Ephesians 4:14, I'm going to mark 2 Thessalonians. This is very important. Ephesians 4:14, this is very important. Ephesians 4. Now, members of Victory Baptist Church knows what I'm about to say, but I'm going to be emphasizing it. All right. Ephesians 4. Here we have Christ. He has ascended, and he has given some apostles, some prophets, some evangelists, some pastors, and some teachers for the perfecting or the equipping of the saints for the work of ministry, for the edifying of the body of Christ, till we all come in the unity of faith and of the knowledge of the Son of God, unto a perfect man, unto the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ, that we henceforth be no more children tossed to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine, by the sleight of men and cunning craftiness, whereby they lie in wait to deceive. So here's the thing. What is the solution to deception or delusion of any kind? Well, the solution is supposed to be the local church. The local church is supposed to be equipping you so that you will not face strong delusion. That is the case. All right. And I think it's very interesting that the word is used right there. All right. 1 Thessalonians 2:3, for our exhortation was not of deceit, nor of uncleanliness, nor in guile. All right. 2 Thessalonians 2:11, and for this cause, what cause? God shall send them, who is the them, strong delusion that they should believe a lie. So here's what I want you to do. Number one, for this cause. What cause? send them? Who is the them who's going to receive this strong delusion? And I want you to go ahead and write this down. Number 3, the answer or the prevention of a strong delusion is supposed to be the work of the local church in equipping you. All right. So number 1, what cause? Number 2, who is the them? Number 3, the prevention of strong delusion is supposed to come from the teaching of the local church. All right. James 5:20, let him know that he which converteth the sinner from the error of his way shall save a soul from death and shall hide a multitude of sins. Our job is to try to convert a sinner from his error. Now, we know we can only do our part in preaching. God ultimately has to be the one to do so. 2 Peter 2:18, for when they speak great swelling words of vanity, they allure through the lust of the flesh, through much wantonness, those that were clean escape for them who live in error. All right. 2 Peter 3:17, that was 2 Peter 2:18. 2 Peter 3:17, ye therefore, beloved, seeing you know these things before, beware lest you also being led away with the error, there's the word, of the wicked, fall from your steadfastness. Now here, Peter is telling people to beware. Be careful that you're not led away with the error, with the delusion. Be on the lookout. 1 John 4:6, we are of God. He that knoweth God heareth us. He that is not of God heareth not us. Hereby we know the spirit of truth and the spirit of error. As Christians, we should know the spirit of delusion. We should know it. We should be able to recognize it because we have the truth. And then Jude 11, woe unto them, for they have gone in the way of Cain and ran greedily after the error or the delusion of Balaam for reward and perished in the gainsaying of Kor. All right. Now, I want you to do this. So let's go back. Let's go back to 2 Thessalonians. Here's what I want you to do. 2 Thessalonians 2:11. Right? Here we go. Number 1. You ready? For this cause. What cause? Number 2, who is the them whom God is going to send a strong delusion upon? Number 3, the prevention to strong delusion is supposed to be the local church equipping saints so they're no longer tossed to and fro with every wind of doctrine, and they're not deceived by the people who lie in wait to deceive. Not people out there willing to bring a strong delusion to you, a delusion to you. That is the prevention of it, all right? And then one more thing I want you to look up. What is the error of Balaam? What was the error of Balaam? Jude 11 mentions it. Woe unto them, for they have gone in the way of Cain. Okay, we probably can figure out what the way of Cain is. And ran greedily after the error or the delusion of Balaam. What was the error or delusion of Balaam? That will give you an idea that we need to stay away from that kind of delusion, that kind of error. What was it? You figure that out. You do some cross-reference work on it. All right? Now, I want to stop right there. I'm just going to stop right there. There's more I want to do here because I've got all these verses about delusion, but some of them are not very helpful. We're just going to stop right there. We're going to stop right there. All right? Now, there's more we could ask. There's more we could do, but I've given you plenty to do. So let me go through this again. All right. And for this cause, what is the cause? God shall send them, who is the them, strong delusion that they should believe a lie, that they might all be damned who believe not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. You got to figure out who these individuals are. All right. Now I'm not gonna give you a hint. There's some things you may want to look up, but I'm not gonna tell you who and what to look up. I'm not gonna give you any clues. Number 3, what is the prevention to strong delusion? The prevention is supposed to be the local church, that you're so equipped that you're not tossed to and fro with every wind of doctrine, and you won't be deceived by the men who are lying in wait to deceive you. All right. Then I want you to tell me what is the error or the delusion of Balaam. And I'm not going to tell you where to look that up. You can go work some cross-references. All right? Now, there's more I would like to do, But I'm just going to, now this is one of those cases where I'm doing most of the, well, I didn't, now I was going to say this is one of the cases, I was getting ready to say this is one of the cases I did most of the work for you, but in reality, this is the case where you've got to do most of the work. But I did go through all the places where the word is used, where the Greek word is used. I did do that for you. I gave you some places to look, but I want you to just think about this. And I want you to just meditate on this idea of there's a time coming, delusion is coming. God's going to send it. I think we have to think of it. See if this helps. I think when we think of delusion, there's three ways of looking at it. There's a natural delusion, a natural deception that's built into our human heart because of our sinful nature. We'll call that natural self-delusion. The heart is deceitful above all things. There is the delusion that comes from the external world system, through philosophy, through culture, through whatever. And then there seems to be a delusion that comes through false teachers. All right? So we have the delusion that comes from self. We have the delusion that comes from culture, external. We have the delusion that comes from false teachers. They may come in the name of God, claiming to be from God, but they're false teachers. And then we have a strong delusion that can come from God. I want you to write those down. Self-delusion, I think sometimes we forget that one. Delusion that comes from the culture and the world system around us. Delusion that comes from false teachers. And then delusion that comes from God. Now, the one that comes from God, I mean, that there's no hope there. I mean, like, so you don't want to be the them who God's going to send a strong delusion to. You don't want to be in that group. You don't want to be there. Now, we didn't even get into when this is going to happen, but you can go back and look at 2 Thessalonians and see if you can develop a timeline, right? See if you can. All right, we'll stop right there. Say I did a little bit extra work for you. I did a little bit of extra work. All right, there you have it. I want to say about 50,000 other things, but I will stop. Please, as always, participate. You're invited to participate. You obviously don't have to, but if you want to, do your work. Send the work to me at newsif@yahoo.com, because typically what happens, you send me your work, and I'm like, oh, that, and then I do another part. Twyla did so much work on Psalm, I think, Psalm, was it 4, then Psalm 2. She did a lot of work on both, which really led to multiple other broadcasts. So thank her for all the work she has done. Everyone else at Victory Baptist Church, you're invited to do the same thing, participate. The chat is there for exhortation and encouragement. That's why it's there. So do that. And for everyone else who's not a member of the church, but you listen to everything we do, you're just as much as invited to participate and challenged to participate, because it's through, that's what we need to be focused on. We don't need to be distracted by so many other things. That's where we really need to be putting our time and our energy. And we need to be concerned about all of these places of delusion, our heart, the culture, false teachers, and then ultimately from God, something that we need to spend a lot of time thinking about. All right, I'll stop right there. Everyone have a great evening, great night. I'm headed home. God bless.